After the Torah tells us about how the animals were created, how Adam and his wife were created, Hashem benches Adam and Chava, says, Pru revu, be fruitful and multiply, Redu b'dgas hayam, you should rule over the fish and the animals, etc. We have two psukim in connection to what Adam and the animals are going to eat. Vayomer Elokim Hashem says, Hini nosat lechem, it's called Esav Zerei Zera, I gave you all sorts of plants and vegetables that grow to eat. The next pasuk, L'chol chayas haaretz, all the animals, the birds, etc., also will eat all the vegetation and the grass, and so on. Rashi quotes the end of the first pasuk and the beginning of the second pasuk. Rashi says, Lochem yiyeh la'achla, which is referring to the food that Adam Rishon is going to eat. U'l'chol chayas haaretz, which is the beginning of the next pasuk, what the animals are going to eat. And Rashi explains, Hishvelahem behemois v'chayos l'maychol. Hashem is now is saying that Adam and Chava are similar to the animals and what they're going to eat. Hashem did not allow Adam and his wife to kill a creature to eat its meat. Rather, they all have to eat the plants, the vegetation, the things that grow. That's what they all have to eat together. Now, simply the way we learn this Rashi is that the comparison between people and animals is they're all not allowed to eat meat. But the Rebbe says, it's seemingly difficult to learn this. Because number one, how can we learn from the comparison of the person to the animals that you're not allowed to eat meat when practically we see there's quite a number of animals of prey that do eat meat? Number two, says the Rebbe, why do we even need a comparison to learn that the person is not allowed to eat meat if the pasuk says what you're allowed to eat is the vegetables. So automatically we understand that this is what they're allowed to eat and not the meat. And finally, says the Rebbe, what was even bothering Rashi that Rashi has to explain? The pasuk seems to be pretty self-explanatory. The Torah Hashem is telling Adam, you're allowed to eat the vegetables. The next pasuk is saying, the animals eat the vegetables. So what's the problem? Why does Rashi even have to speak about this fact that they are similar? A number of diyukim, specific questions on the wording of Rashi. Number one, what's this expression of Lo Hirsha? Hashem did not allow Adam and his wife to kill an animal to eat the meat. Why doesn't Rashi say simply, meat is asur? Number two, why does Rashi say that the isur was to kill an animal and eat its meat, which sounds like if it would have died by itself, they would be allowed to eat the meat. Where's Rashi taking that from? The pasuk says they're allowed to eat vegetables. Where's Rashi taking from? They would have been allowed to eat meat had they not killed it. And finally, why does Rashi finish off by saying again, Ach kol yerek esev, but all sorts of vegetables and grass, they could all eat together. The Rebbe now looks at the next part of the Rashi. And Rashi says, when the children of Noach came along, Hashem allowed them to eat meat. As the pasuk says, Kol remes hasher uchai, all crawling things that are alive. Ki yerek esev, like the grass that I allowed Adam Rishon, I'm giving you everything now as well. Says the Rebbe, the fact that Rashi has to mention this heter, this permission to eat meat, this we can understand. Because the Ben Chamish Lemikro, who's learning the pasuk, practically sees that we do shecht and we eat meat. So Rashi has to explain to him where this came up from, how we allowed to eat meat if there was an Isra on Adam Rishon. But what's not understood is that seemingly it would have just been enough to say that the children of Noach got this heter. Why is it so relevant to quote the exact pasuk that the Bnei Noach are allowed to eat meat? And the Rebbe also looks at the specific parts of the pasuk that Rashi quotes, which again, seemingly it's not the parts of the pasuk that are so needed to explain this heter. So the Rebbe says the explanation is, what Rashi was mainly coming to answer in this Rashi were a few psukim that arise in our psukim. A few questions that arise in our psukim. Number one, why is it relevant in the story of creation what Adam and the animals are going to eat? The fact that the pasuk says to Adam and Chava, "Pru revu, be fruitful and multiply," we can understand. This is telling us how creation is going to continue up until today. The fact that Hashem says, "Uredu, you're going to be the ones ruling over the fish and the animals," we can understand. This is telling us the uniqueness of Adam. Adam was created b'tzalmeinu k'dmuseinu, in the image of Hashem, so he's going to be the ruler over everything. But why is it relevant what they're going to be eating? Says the Rebbe, even if we're going to find why it's a reason why it's relevant, this command of what Adam Rishon is allowed or not allowed to eat, why is it relevant to command Adam what the animals are going to eat? In order to answer all of this, Rashi is showing us the connection between these two psukim, and quoting again from the two psukim, the end of one and the beginning of the other, Lachem yiyeh la'achla. And then ulechol, with that vav that connects the next pasuk, ulechol chayas haaretz, and all the animals. Rashi is coming to say that, you know what the pasuk is doing here? The pasuk is specifically coming to equate Adam and all other animals. It's not about giving us the isser of what Adam is not allowed to eat. That we could have understood again from the pasuk says you're eating vegetables. We understand he's eating vegetables and not meat. The pasuk is actually coming to emphasize how Adam and the animals are equal. Why is it relevant over here in Bereishis to speak how Adam and the animals are equal? So this goes back again to the previous point that we said. The pasuk spoke about how B'Tselem Elokim Aseh Adam. Hashem creates man in his image. Hashem tells him to rule over all the animals. Says the pasuk that despite Adam's greatness over all other creatures, nevertheless he has to remember that he's still a creature. He's still a created being by Hashem. And in his very existence, to be able to survive, he's exactly equal to all the other animals and what they're going to have to eat. Although he's going to be ruling over them, but nevertheless, as Rashi says, he was not granted permission to be able to go kill animals. Even though he's ruling over them, this is not the type of rulership that he was given. This also tells us why, if it would have died by itself, there's no problem, because that's not then expressing man's all-powerful rulership over the animals, if it died already anyways by itself. Says the Rebbe, this will also help us understand now why Rashi elaborates when he speaks about this idea that the Bnei Noach was permitted to eat meat. So the question immediately becomes, if people have to be warned not to forget that they're just a created being by Hashem, do the Bnei Noach not need to have this warning? So Rashi brings us the pasuk that says by Noach, where the pasuk says over there, Ki Yerek Esev, that they're allowed to eat meat just like the vegetables and the grass. And Rashi adds over there, Shehitarti l'Adam Rishon, just like the grass that I had allowed Adam Rishon, just like the vegetables that I allowed Adam Rishon to eat, I'm now allowing you to eat meat. In other words, the fact that Bnei Noach are now are allowed to eat meat is not that now there's all these limitations are off and now they could just rule animals however they feel like. It's a particular heter. It's a particular heter that he was given, just like Adam Rishon was permitted to eat vegetables in order to survive. Hashem is now giving this heter to be able to take the animals, to use them to be healthy and to eat as well. But it's not that the person now suddenly has unlimited rulership over the animals. Says the Rebbe Dohairah from all of this in Avodas Hashem. This idea that together with the redo of ruling over the animals, the person still has to feel that he is a created being is not only so that he shouldn't have gaiva, arrogance, and the negative results that come out of that, but it's also relevant to the very rulership itself. That means, when a person thinks that he is ruling over everything, over all of creation, with his own koyach, then he's not going to be able to rule over them. He's going to be equal to them. He's going to be eating the same things as them. He's similar to them. It's only when he remembers the truth, that the fact that really he's equal to all other creatures, and the ability to rule is only coming from Hashem, then he can be the true ruler, because it's not his own rulership, rather it's Hashem's. As Rashi says on the word v'yirdu b'dgas hayam, the word v'yirdu can be understood in two ways. V'yirdu can mean rulership. It could also be lashon yerida of a descent. If the person is zoich, if he merits, then he's ruling. Otherwise, he becomes lower than the animals, and the animals rule over him. And the Rebbe gives the chassidische, the pirish pnimi in these words. Zacha, besides meaning merit, also means from the word zichuch, being refined. If a person is refined, he doesn't have gaiva, doesn't have arrogance. He understands that he's only going with the koyach of Hashem. Then he's the true ruler and master, because it's Hashem's rulership. But if he's not refined, he's going with his own yeshus, then in fact he's worse and lower than animals. And the Rebbe concludes with Ha'irah also to nowadays. Because Chazal tell us that a person, Adam, this word Adam is specifically a title for Yidden. And here too we say the same idea. Hashem says to the Yidden Uredu that all the nations are going to help us and with our work, etc. And even in the time of Golus. But here we have the Ha'irah. If a person is just relying on his own koyach, on his own power, thinking he is so great, he has all these great milas, then that's loy zocha, he's not meriting. In other words, he's not refined. Then chas v'shalom, the nations don't act to him in a way of respect, and he feels himself lower than everybody else. It's only when he refines himself and he knows Hashem is the one that gives us all the power and the koyach. and it's not our own wisdom, but we go with the wisdom of Hashem, which is Torah and Shulchan Aruch. We act according to the Horos of Hashem. Then we go b'koyach HaMishaleach. Then we rule, and we see clearly how the Goyim help us out even in the time of Golus, until finally the time of Mashiach comes, when the Amdu Zarim, the foreigners, are going to get up, and take care of the Yidden's sheep and everything else that they have.